But most cases, they chose a place where someone else already lived, the indigenous people. And this idea that you can remove by force the people of the land that you want is probably more understandable, not justifiable of course, but more understandable against the background of the 16th century, the 17th century, the 18th century, because it went together with imperialism, colonialism, the total dehumanization of the non-Western, of the non-European, and therefore, if you dehumanize people, you can remove them. What was so unique about Zionism as a settler colonial movement, that it appeared on the international arena at the time where people all around the world had second thoughts about the right of removing indigenous people, of eliminating the natives. And therefore, we understand the effort and the energy that the Zionist project, and later the State of Israel, invest in trying to cover up the real motive of a settler colonial movement such as Zionism, namely the elimination of the native. But they are eliminating in front of our eyes today in Gaza the native population. So how come they almost gave up of 75 years of attempting to say, no, we are not a movement that eliminates people. We are not creating, we are not genociding the Palestinians. In order to understand that, that's the main point I want to make, is that the early stages of the Zionist settler colonialism were carried out with, I would say, even a genuine attempt to square the circle by saying we can continue with the elimination of the native, but we want still to be considered a democracy. We still want to be a member of the civilized nation. So how do we do it? How do you eliminate and yet are not condemned as being a genocide? The Israelis invented for themselves, and I think quite a lot of people outside of Israel accepted it, even and before Israel, the Zionist movement, the idea of the retaliation, of the response. From very early on, if you look at the most horrific actions that the Zionist settlers and later the Israelis took against the Palestinians, they always begin with an explanation that it is a retaliation. It's a response to a Palestinian act of violence. And there's a correlation between the way the ethnic cleansing in 1948 developed and the operations of the Israelis in Gaza today developed. In 1948, at first, the Israelis to themselves, the Zionist leadership to itself, justified every massacre it committed, including the infamous massacre of Deir Yassin on the 9th of April, as a reaction to a Palestinian action. It could have been throwing stones at a bus, attacking a Jewish settlement, but it had to be presented domestically and externally as something that doesn't come out of the blue. It is a reaction, self-defense. That's why they call the Israeli army the Israeli Defense Forces. But because it's a settler colonial project, it cannot rely all the time on retaliation. And very quickly, the retaliation, we saw it in the months between January and May 1948. Most of the Israeli actions until the 10th of March 1948, when they adopted a master plan for the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, most of the actions that Israel took against the Palestinians until the beginning of March 1948 were presented as a reaction to the Palestinian reaction to the partition plan. The reactions of the Israelis from March 48 to the end of 1948 were not even presented domestically as a retaliation anymore, but as a master plan of ethnically cleansing the Palestinians with no justification, so to speak, just acting on the ground in order to